What was the please stop school presentation that you witnessed? Story 1. We were supposed to have Arnold Schwarzenegger come to our school sometime around 1999 or 2000. The principal was hyping it up for weeks. Then, about 4 days before his arrival, it was announced on Friday that he wasn't coming. Fast forward to Monday during morning announcements, it's announced he's changed his mind and is coming to our school tomorrow as planned. Come Tuesday morning, everyone is excited. We're all amped to meet the Terminator. A handful of parents even came with VHS copies of his movies, posters, etc. We're all going to our gym/auditorium, taking our seats. Principal takes the stage and takes the moment to make some announcements, award honor roll, perfect attendance, etc. Finally, he starts hyping up Arnold Schwarzenegger. Everyone is excited and on edge when she basically says, "Here's Arnie," and it's the vice principal in a leather jacket holding a shotgun, not a toy one either, and spends 30 to 40 minutes trying to hype us up for fat, all while doing the absolute worst impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger I've ever heard. Once we realized Arnold wasn't there, people started shouting, screaming at the principal for lying to us, along with some of the parents who came to this. I do hope someone has footage of this meltdown of a bunch of K-5 kids shouting and screaming as the principal because Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't come to our school, because I clearly remember 2 to 3 people having camcorders.
Alrighty, students, first thing is first, it's Sloppy Joe Day. So after this, be sure to get to the cafeteria. Do it now, go!
Story 2. I studied computer security. In an Introduction to Computer Security course, we had to do a project on social engineering. A student decided that for his project, he was going to find a way to gain access to a chosen website. He found a small local business website, identified that the domain was registered to an email address from a local ISP. Called the ISP to reset the password. They asked him for his last 4 of his social security number, so he hung up. He found the phone number of the business, so called them and pretended to be from the ISP, offering 3 months free if the person did a 5-question survey. They accepted and answered some BS questions. Then he asked for the last 4 of the guy's social security number, which they gave, no problem. He then called the ISP with the last 4, got them to reset the password of the email account. He then logged into the email and used it to get the domain registrar to send a password reset to the email, which he used to reset the password of the domain account and deleted the email. He recorded all phone calls and screenshotted the whole process. As he presented all these, we kept expecting him to say, "But that would be illegal, so I didn't do X." But he went all the way. The professor finally stopped him after he said he logged into the domain registrar and told him to destroy everything and never speak of it again. I think the professor was a bit nicer than he could have been, potentially to the point of accomplice telling him to destroy evidence. Wow, nothing like committing digital crimes to pass a class. Digital crimes sounds like a term from a bad sci-fi movie in the early 90s, except they would have probably said digi-crimes and thought it sounded cool. If you are found guilty of digi-crimes in cyber court, you might just be sentenced to do time in compu jail. Story 3. Opioid awareness, literally a few months ago. Started with them blasting the entirety of the Disturbed cover of The Sound of Silence, while a slideshow of images containing sad stock photos with the watermark all over, random shots of really dark nighttime photos, and tons of poorly photoshopped drug images trudged on ever so slowly. Then 2 women told us the harrowing story of how their sons died of opioid overdoses. Incredibly emotional, several people cried. Real downer, basically. Then a DEA agent comes up and tries to act like a bad cop. He calls us, an assembly of high school students, grade 9 through 12, frickin' morons. The principal was not pleased. He is then followed by a nurse who was there to tell us the physical effects of opioid addiction and withdrawals and all that, and she did talk about that, but the whole time she was running around practically screaming jokes and doing crappy over-the-top gags trying to be the comic relief. In an opioid assembly, where 2 women shared the stories of how their children died. What the frick was she doing being that loud and crazy? Everyone came out of the whole thing with a general attitude of, yeah, frick opioids, but also frick that whole presentation. Story 4. Not a literal presentation, really, but we had an assembly in high school where the students that helped plan homecoming would announce the nominations for homecoming court. It always had a cute little theme and like a short skit involved. Well, at one point, the audio they were using as the cue for the skit failed. They just kind of paused for technical difficulties, but this one girl from the planning committee started singing a random Disney song a cappella while improvising a dance to go along with it. I guess as a distraction from them trying to fix the audio? She kept trying to get people to join in with her, but nobody did, and she eventually just kind of trailed off mid-song and started pouting that nobody would sing with her. Then, once they got the audio fixed for the skit, she pouted and snapped the way through the rest of her lines, which made everything even more uncomfortable. The other famous one was when a girl in our class running for student government referenced a hashtag that she was trying to make popular during her campaign speech to the whole school. The hashtag was something catchy about her having a big butt. There was a genuine collective yikes from the crowd when she said it. I don't think she got elected. First off, I am frankly offended that we don't even get to know what the catchphrase big butt hashtag was. How are we supposed to judge it now? Hashtag vote bubble butt? Hashtag President Peach? I got nothing. Also, I will never understand schools that actually find student governments even remotely engaging. At my school, I swear the student president garnered about as much attention as the friggin' chess club. And I don't even know if we had one of those. Story 5. We had this senior talent show that a few male students could sign up for, no idea why it was only guys or how the few people even got nominated for it, and they all had to do their own act. Some sang, some danced, some put on a funny skit, possibilities were endless. Well, each year someone who never got told they weren't good at singing would end up on stage. One time this guy did the evolution of boy band songs, and it was just below average singing for, no joke, 15 minutes straight. Bonus skit that I'm glad didn't stop because it was hilarious. One guy did a wrestling skit with different movie characters and my friend was the announcer. When Indiana Jones got into the ring, my friend announced, "It's the BDSM bad boy himself." And somehow that slipped by all the school staff members and made it into the DVDs the school sold. Another friend of mine sang Disney princess songs while wearing a Sonic hat and got second place, and at least 3 girls gave him their number. If you can sing Disney princess songs while wearing a Sonic hat while being confident, you better believe the girls are gonna swoon. Story 6. It's me! I did this! I cringe about it to this day, nearly 20 years later. I was 16 and in high school. My high school was going to do a spring talent show. I wanted to be in the talent show and show off my talents. The problem was my actual talents are not ones that I could show off at a talent show. So I decided to try singing. I have never sung in my life. I've never had voice lessons. I was in my prime weeb stage and chose an anime song to sing. I didn't know any actual Japanese, I just memorized the lyrics from hearing the songs so many times. Luckily, I didn't make it past auditions, but several people saw an overweight girl in a Sailor Moon shirt trying to sing Butterfly despite having never done any singing or voice training ever in her life. Nearly 20 years later, and remembering it keeps me awake at night. A girl in my school danced to Hatsune Miku for a presentation. I cringed, but I admired her balls for doing something like that. You know, I never thought of the fact that talent shows really only work for showier talents. Like, if I was really good at woodworking, it would be pretty weird if I just brought in a really nice chair I made, set it on stage, and went, "There, I made that." You'll notice the lack of visible screws and that I did not use a typical stain but an oil-based coating to accent its natural grains better. Thank you. Story 7. High school junior English class. An easy 6 to 7 years ago, so details are fuzzy, but we had weeks to prepare a presentation alongside an informative essay that we wrote. Weeks of in-class time, like 3 to 4 weeks of full 5-day 50-minute classes for this essay, presentation, and the actual presenting. This kid in the class decided to write about the problems of procrastination. For the essay, it was a few sentences, something like, "I procrastinated and this was the result. Nothing done, etc." The presentation, a few slides, all white with the default texts and sizes, and it was something along the same lines of, "I have nothing prepared because my topic is procrastination." The teacher was disturbingly unimpressed, and the kid threw such a fit about failing his major project, seriously, it was a hefty portion of the class, that he transferred out of the class. He pulled a gamble and lost so hard. Probably thought he was being witty or some such. I'll give him an A for cleverness, and an F for the rest of the project. Story 8. A teacher asked us to compare the cells in our body to anything we can think of. Obviously, some students compared the parts of the human cell to schools, jails, libraries, normal things, right? Well, this one student that sits next to me had a different idea. These were group projects, keep in mind. This girl managed to strong-arm her group to compare the human cell to the infamous webcomic Homestuck. She did this successfully. Not only did I feel dirty, but her group felt worse for having their names on it. Oh god, this sounds like something I would do in 6th grade. I had a friend who deliberately wrote moral of the story instead of morals in a presentation, and I have never forgiven him since. Oh dear lord, as a teacher, I would have a hard time listening to that project. I mean, can you even imagine how bad that would be? I'm sorry, that's an F. Everyone knows Andrew Hussey's superior webcomic was Problem Sleuth, and if any of you disagree with me, I'll give you an F too. Story 9. I've told this a few times, but it's truly unforgettable. Smart kid in the class was giving a deeply sourced PowerPoint presentation on religion in Europe. He opens up his files, proceeds to click on his project named N-word. He says, "Clearly I wasn't really paying any attention when I named my file." He gives the presentation. He stutters and sweats bullets while we watch in utter disbelief. The word is sitting there on the top of the file heading the whole time. This was during a study abroad semester while attending a cultural communication class. He had to rot in his own crap after that. Story 10. Compared to some other stories here, this is minor, but it was a group project for one of my literature classes. There were 5 people in this group. According to the rubric for this assignment, everyone was supposed to have equal speaking parts. One of the members in this group would just not stop talking. Half of their presentation was just her talking, and she went on about each of her slides for like 5 minutes. The rest of the group members had like 1 or 2 slides each, and she had, if I recall correctly, 5 or 6. She would also interject into the other group members' parts to add her opinions. The look on my professor's face screamed, "Just shut up already," every time she talked. Oh man, this could have been me in high school or college. I was such a know-it-all and talked way too much. I cringe so hard when I think about it. I've fallen into this trap myself. I think a real turning point for me was the realization that perhaps one of the best indicators of understanding a topic and appearing smart is the ability to take a lot of information and convey it concisely. For example, this comment. Story 11 was in a video filmmaking class in high school. One of the guys did a parody of those Gatorade commercials where the athletes sweat and colored like Gatorade, but it was a sweaty guy jerking off. Apparently there was a Gatorade money shot, but the teacher just turned that crap off immediately before it got that far. I never thought I would read the words Gatorade money shot together with my own 2 eyes in my entire life, yet here I am. Story 12. In college, during abnormal psychology, a student did an entire presentation on Obama's bipolar disorder. She kept citing an article from The Onion. Story 13. The anti-vaxxer chick that did a presentation on why vaccines cause autism, followed up by someone else's presentation on how vaccines do not cause autism. It was a weird day. I bet the guy who went after her felt pretty confident when he walked up. Story 14. Presentation on World War II. A student had just discovered all the neat transitions you can use between slides and decided to use a different one each slide. They used the flashing heart transition between a photo slide of a mass grave and a photo slide of Hitler. I'm not even sure what to say about these last few, just a series of bad decisions on display for us. I feel like I'm watching an episode of The Office, but it's all just the cringy parts. I need a break where Jim and Pam flirt or something, please. Story 15. For the 8th grade talent show, 2 girls sang the Mr. Bladell song. Mr. Bladell was a good-looking, recently college-graduated teacher that basically was about how cute they thought he was. Even then, it was incredibly uncomfortable, and I remember looking at the teacher's face, and he didn't seem very amused. God, I would hate to be that teacher. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.